Hello guys, gals, and non-binary friends, my name is Duke and I am pleased to make your acquaintance. Today we'll be going over a deck profile on Starry Knights. This archetype is one of my favorites for a few unique reasons. For one, their boss monster, which is first on the chopping block for me to explain, is technically not a Starry Knight card, so every card has to reference it by mentioning a level 7 light dragon type, which is kinda funny. Secondly, besides Triamids, they're the only archetype I can think of that's situated in such a way to include at least one copy of every single card in their deck. Lastly, not only is their art style beautiful, but their playstyle is awesome as well. This revolves around bouncing your own dragon to continue special summoning it back, giving you a pop of any card on the field for each time it's summoned. I'd also like to point out that while this deck is underused, it is quite a strong rogue deck, and it should not be slept on. There already exists tons and tons of resources out there for the top tier decks, so what I'm trying to do here is show some love to the more underrepresented ones that can still really put up a fight. So let's get started explaining the cards. First things first, we've got Starry Knight, Starry Dragon, or SD for short. So like I just said, each time this card is normal or special summoned, we get to target and destroy any card on the field. This is not once per turn by any means, so multiple times in a turn if we get to summon this card out, we get to target and destroy something. SD's second effect states that it cannot be destroyed by battle between itself and a dark monster, or by any dark monster's card effects, which is pretty nice considering there's a ton of support out there for dark monsters and it's a very popular attribute. Its last effect allows us to banish an opponent's monster that we declare an attack on, and then attack again in a row after that. That monster will be returned during the end phase, however. If you're like me and you only own 2 copies of this card, then I would suggest using both of them and keeping your deck size to about 20. However, if you do have 3 copies, then it would be possible to use all 3, and increase your deck size between 21 to 25 cards if you felt so inclined. Next up to discuss is our 3-of starter, Starry Knight Rayel. On normal summon, we get to search any Starry Knight spell or trap card, which is really good. And also, while she's in the graveyard, we can banish her in order to target a differently named Starry Knight in our grave, and special summon them out. Both of these can be used on the same turn, but they are both hard once per turn. By the way, this pattern of each Starry Knight monster having an effect in the hand or on the field as well as the graveyard is going to continue. Moving on, we've got Starry Knight Orbitael. Its on-field effect allows us to target and tribute any light monster we control in order to set any Starry Knight spell or trap from our deck. This is a quick effect, so it can be used during either player's turn, regardless of what phase we're in. Meanwhile, while it's in the graveyard and we manage to bounce our Starry Dragon, we have the option to special summon Orbitael from the graveyard. Both of these are hard once per turn, but they can both be used on the same turn. Its graveyard effect is especially useful for being able to make rank 4 plays or link plays. Next up is our first instance of a monster effect allowing us to special summon Starry Dragon from our hand, and there's more where that came from. I'm talking about Starry Knight Astel. Similar to Orbitael, Astel's effect on the field allows us to target a light monster we control and tribute it. However, instead of setting a Starry Knight spell or trap, this effect will allow us to special summon Starry Dragon from our hand. It's important to note that these quick effects do not tribute for cost, meaning that once we target one of our light monsters, our opponent does not have to necessarily negate this per se. All they would have to do is remove our target from the field, and then our effect would fizzle since we don't have a target anymore if they manage to flip our monster face down, or bounce it back to our hand, anything like that. As long as they're able to remove our monster, we don't get our target anymore, and our effect will not go off. Meanwhile, Astel's effect in the graveyard says that we can banish it, and then target one of our Starry Dragons on the field, and it will gain 1000 attack until our opponent's end phase. This is kind of an important effect for clearing problematic cards, such as Blue Eyes White Dragon, which can be a threat otherwise. Starry Knight Flamel acts as both a battle trap and a hand trap simultaneously. What Flamel can do is, upon our opponent declaring an attack, we're able to send it from our field or hand in order to special summon Starry Dragon from our hand. Meanwhile, it's got a quick effect in the graveyard in order to banish itself from the graveyard so that we can target our Starry Dragon on the field or in our graveyard and add it back to our hand, so it's pretty good at recycling Starry Dragon. However, it's important to note that both of these effects cannot be used on the same turn. We have to choose just one. Last but not least is Starry Knight Ciel. Ciel is capable of targeting a Starry Knight monster in our possession or a Starry Dragon to bounce it and then special summon itself. Meanwhile, in the graveyard, if we control no monsters, we can banish Ciel in order to special summon Starry Dragon from our hand. Both of these effects can be used on the same turn, but both are hard ones per turn. Alright, this card is absolutely bonkers, but it does come at an extreme cost. For those of you not familiar with Ties of the Brethren's effect, since it is very niche, what it does is lets you target a level 4 or lower monster you control in order to special summon out 2 monsters from your deck with the same level, type, and attribute as that monster, but with different names all from each other. And then from the rest of the turn onwards, you cannot special summon or enter the battle phase. Basically what we want to do is lead with Rayel, get a search off of that, and then use Ties of the Brethren in order to special summon out Orbitael and Astel, which is like the ideal board. It's very important to talk about how, just like with Orbitael and Astel, our opponent is able to interrupt this card without negating it. What this means is that we can try to use this card, fail to bring out 2 monsters from our deck, and still be locked out of special summoning or going into the battle phase, which really sucks. And it's just another risk to consider when playing this card. If it's not your style, you can forego this card and just choose to play back row removal options. It's almost needless to be said, but you could also replace this card with limit 3 traps or hand traps. Moving on, we've got another necessary 3 of in Starry Knight Balefire. Balefire will search any Starry Knight monster, as well as Starry Dragon, and then, if we control no monsters and our opponent controls a dark monster, it will allow us to special summon Starry Dragon from our hand. And of course it is hard ones per turn. The remainder of the Starry Knight spells and traps are all 1 of. We don't need to run any more than 1 copy of each of them. So let's talk about Starry Knight Ceremony. Pretty good effects. It also allows us to search Starry Dragon by revealing one of our Starry Knight monsters, adding Starry Dragon from our deck to our hand, and then adding that revealed monster back to the bottom of our deck. It's got another effect which is really insane and funny that your opponent really has to watch out for. If they activate any card at all, then it allows us to special summon Starry Dragon from our hand. However, this cannot be used the same turn that you put back a Starry Knight monster in order to grab Starry Dragon. The Starry Knight archetype also comes with a field spell in Starry Night Sky, which gives us an additional normal summon per turn. It's also got an effect stating that during our turn, if Starry Dragon is bounced from the field to our hand, we can draw a card, which is pretty nice. Both of these are hard ones per turn. Starry Knight Blast is, believe it or not, a limit 1 card that was added to the card trader a couple months ago, and it's a really nice negate. What it'll do is, if we control Starry Dragon, we can bounce it back to our hand and then negate and destroy any card or effect. Not that it matters, but this is a hard once per turn. We can only play 1 copy of it anyway, so that's all well and good. The final card I'm playing is Starry Knight Arrival. It's kind of like Flamel and Ceremony. It's got 2 effects, but on any given turn we can only use 1 of them. Also, it's very important to note that this card can only be used during either player's main phase, unlike Orbitael and Astel, which is a quick effect that can be activated anytime basically. You gotta remember that this can only be used on the main phase. So what it will do is bounce your Starry Dragon or special summon it from the hand. 2 really good effects. The extra deck is very simple. All we want to run are rank 4s and any low link rating monsters. Our skill of choice is exclusive to Tori, and what it'll do is more or less make us start the duel with 6,000 life points. This skill is very easy to proc. All we have to do is, on our first turn, have normal summon a fairy type monster, and set at least 2 spell traps. So basically all we want to do is, prior to activating our spell cards, set them first. The yellow button will come up to activate our skill to gain 2,000 life points, and then we can continue and actually use our spells. One of the biggest reasons we choose to use this skill is because I did not yet mention that Ties of the Brethren does cost us 2,000 life points to use, so we can basically cancel that out by using this skill. Alright, the first replay I'll be going over is versus Dark Magician. I think they did a decent job at trying to play around me, so let's get into it. In this game I did not open ties, so I think it's important to show 1 game where I didn't and 1 game where I did. I do misplace slightly at the beginning of this. What I should have done is normal summon Rayel first, grab Ceremony, set Ceremony as well as Balefire, activated the skill then, but what I do here is I activate Balefire first, like you're gonna see. The thing is I do have 2 Balefire though, so I'm just going to set the extra one. Shouldn't have done that, but that's how things worked out for this. So here we are, here's the Rayel, grabbing Ceremony. I'm going to set that extra one as well as Ceremony to gain 2000. Going to flip up Ceremony, return Astel, I don't need it in my hand, to search Starry Dragon, and that's gonna be my entire turn. I don't have any of my traps, it's not a crazy strong board, but basically what I want to do is summon Starry Dragon whenever my opponent does anything at all. So they're gonna set 2 and then play Dark Magician, Battle Chronicle to search their Successor Soul. It's kind of a misplay because I can guess that's Successor Soul. They could have not set those 2 cards first. What they're going to do is link into Imduk next. And they haven't actually activated any cards. They end their turn there, so they did play around Ceremony that time. I'm going to use that Balefire now that has been set for a turn to grab Ciel. Ciel attempt to bounce Rayel to special summon itself to give myself another Rayel search. And there's the Successor Soul. Kind of an interesting play there. They're going to special summon BLS, but you're about to see why they chose to do that. They had the Crow in hand, so they do acknowledge that CL does have an effect in the graveyard. Since I control our monsters, I could have been able to banish it and then special summon Starry Dragon. Unfortunately, them playing Successor Soul, though, does give me a special summon of Starry Dragon anyway, so they kind of could not get around that. They're going to Crackdown, though. Then they have 2 Crackdown, turns out. I still have all my normal summons though, so here's Rayel. I choose to grab Sky, play Sky so that I can get an extra normal summon. And now I'm going to rank into Astel because Astel is insane. I'm going to spin that Crackdown to return control of my Starry Dragon. Attack, banish to attack again in a row, and Astel attack for game. Alright, the second replay I will show off is versus Nekroz. So let's see. I already spoiled it. I do lead with Ties this time. They're going to go first as well. Ties is not in my starting hand, but I will top deck it. So let's see what they go ahead and do. They're going to discard Brionac to search. They're going to discard the Clauselus they just searched to search a ritual spell. And that's their entire turn, so it's very obvious they are telegraphing that they have Valkyris in there to end the battle phase and negate my attack. I'm going to go ahead and start off by using Balefire to search my Searcher. Normal summon Rayel for a search of my negate. Set 2 cards, let me duel 2 to gain 2000. Activate Sky, activate Ties, to special summon Orbitael and Astel. Orbital effect to tribute Rayel to get it in the graveyard, and because we want to conserve these 2 quick effects for my opponent's next turn, we're going to flip up Ceremony that we just searched. Sky effect for an additional normal summon. And the reason I do this is because Nekroz of Trishula, so they are going to go ahead and activate Preparation, and I'm going to go ahead and Orbital to tribute that attack position Astel, and just place a rival onto the field. There's Brionac. Big surprise, Brionac is going to discard for a search of Shuret. And they're going to play Cycle. I'm going to go ahead and Astel to tribute Orbital. Orbital's used its effect this turn. And special summon Starry Dragon. So what happened there is both of us played our cards. That was the end of one chain. Now a new chain is going to start after both of our monsters are on the field. Player priority, they get their Shuret search first. And since I have just summoned Starry Dragon, I get to attempt to pop. They have Trishula to respond to that. Fortunately for me, Trishula only negates, it doesn't negate and destroy, so my Starry Dragon will just remain on the field. They're going to go ahead and use Mirror now, but I'm going to go ahead and activate Blast to negate and destroy that, and also showcase an important interaction between Blast and Ceremony. So at the start of this chain, they activated a spell card. What Blast does is it will bounce your Starry Dragon for a cost. So Starry Dragon is back in my hand, and what Ceremony says is if your opponent activates any card, you get to special summon Starry Dragon, and that's exactly what it'll prompt. And Orbital as well, since I just bounced Starry Dragon, I get to special summon Orbital from the graveyard, re-special summon Starry Dragon back, and pop it for good this time. Of course, they still have the Valkyrie, so I can't win this turn. I'm gonna go ahead and banish Astel just to gain 1000 attack, because why not? Make the Utopia and then overlay Lightning onto it so I can at least do a little bit of damage. Here's Sky to summon Rayel. Rayel to search Balefire, Balefire to search Flamel. Normal Flamel just to get a bunch of attack on board, even though I know that I cannot win this turn. There's the Valkyrie banishing Brionek and discarding itself, and flipping up a rival just for kicks. And now they are going to activate Draw Sense Light to grab the Manju, as well as use Nekroz Mirror to banish itself, and Valkyrie to grab Kaleidoscope. Now they are going to normal Manju to search for another Brionek. Kaleidoscope to special summon Brionek, and they also got Skull Knight into their graveyard by that effect. They're going to use Brionek to bounce my Utopia, but I don't really care about that. What I care about is protecting my Starry Dragon from this Fossil Warrior. I'm going to go ahead and use Arrival to bring it back to my hand, and this will activate Ceremony because they used this Fossil Fusion monster. So I get to attempt to destroy the Brionek. They're going to protect it again with Trishula, and they go into battle phase. They don't really have anything left to do. I have a 2500 monster, and they cannot clear that, so at this point it is game over. I'm just normal summoning, doing things. There's Paladin Ammo to make his Manju 0. Playing this for no reason. And that's that.